Hey everybody, Opendoor technology looked great today. We closed at $6.43 and right now we're at $7.21. I've been making videos for the past 2 to 3 days letting everybody know that Opendoor is starting to look good again, and that's why I'm making videos. And what happened? We pumped up and everybody had an early warning to get in, right? I started making videos again on Opendoor, I think on January 2nd, and the price pretty much was at $5.85 to $6.15. That was the range it was trading in when I made my first video, to let everybody know that something's going on with Opendoor, because you don't get 3 green candles in a row for nothing. And especially when they're kind of like this small. That's good because there's a lot of buying in it and they're suppressing it down a little bit because the stock is going to go much higher. A lot of times when you have a lot of buying and the price doesn't move a lot, it's because institutions are buying in, but they don't want the price to go up too high just yet because they're not fully in yet. And that's what happened these 3 days. They were not fully in yet. They were buying shares, and then they let it rip today and a few days before. Now, this red candle right here, that's because of the news that came out that they said Trump was going to ban institutional investors from buying houses, and then retail started panicking. Not smart money, because they knew that already that Opendoor is good to go. They're iBuyer company. It has nothing to do with institutional investing in houses. Very different. Opendoor, Rocket Mortgage, and Zillow are going to benefit from this ban for institutional buyers buying houses. Pretty much institutional buyers are hoarding houses and making the prices for housing much more expensive than it should be. Once the ban is in effect, housing will be much more affordable, and then Opendoor can do what they need to do. Buy houses, flip them, repair them, and sell it to people who want to buy houses, not institutional investors. How will this ban affect Opendoor? I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. Today, finally, we have some good news. We have good news to show you, and we have a good chart to show you. So stick around and watch everything I'm going to show you. Hopefully you watch to the end, because I have a lot of news and I have important chart information to give you as well. First thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the chart as it is now. Then I'm going to show you some news about Opendoor, why it went down and why it's going back up. And then I'm going to show you where I think Opendoor will go to next. On the weekly chart, the RSI is starting to curl up again. So this means money is coming back into the stock. The MACD is starting to flatline and go up again, which means the money that's going into the stock is starting to have an effect on the price of Opendoor, which means the price of Opendoor can go higher. Now, these blue lines that you see, these are the lines I made about 3 days ago when I first started making a video again on Opendoor, letting everybody know that things are starting to move much better for Opendoor. And I haven't moved them. These are still in the same spot. The first one I put was $5.76 because that's where I said the support was at. That's exactly where I drew it at, and I haven't moved it. The second line I drew was at $7, and that's where the resistance is going to be. And the first video I made was on this day, January 2nd. And it did reach the resistance at $7 on January 6th. But when that news came out, it made the stock go down to $6.01. So all the smart money and retail investors who were smart enough to know that this ban is not going to affect Opendoor bought more shares, and that's why it came back up the next day. We didn't go to $7 in one day, but after hours we're at $7.18. We are above this candle right here that closed at $6.93 on January 6th, and now we're right over here, this area, $7.18, $7.19 area. That's where we're at right now after hours. So as you can see, you can't listen to everything you hear. You can't believe everything you see, especially people who are giving misinformation on social media and other chat rooms and other stock chat rooms saying, oh, Opendoor is done. Opendoor is going to $1. Opendoor is finished. And they were spreading this information, which was wrong, saying Opendoor is an institutional investor, which they aren't. And it's very clear. I'm going to show you right now what I mean. First thing first, Opendoor soars as management says Trump push to end institutional home buying wouldn't hurt the company. So that's great. That's very great. It's proof that institutional home buying is not going to hurt Opendoor. It said here that Wednesday was an overreaction and misinterpretation by the markets that Opendoor would be affected. In my Discord, if you're in there, I put a lot of news out there saying, don't worry, Opendoor would not be affected. And if you're in the Discord and you held on to your shares, you didn't lose any money and you're not missing this run right here. Kaz says, when families buy homes, they buy a stake in the future of their community. Everything we can do to help people live in homes they own is a good thing. Homes are for families, not institutional home buyers. We are super happy to see Donald Trump is so committed to help average homeowners. This is good news for the housing stocks, the housing industry, because it's going to bring buyers back to the market. And as you can see here, home purchase applications fall, but mortgage rates dropped to the lowest since September 2024. Mortgage rates just dropped again. The average U.S. mortgage rate for a 30-year mortgage dropped to 6.25, the lowest it has been since September. But remember, even though all this is good news, the job market has to improve also. Once the job market improves, people will be more confident to buy houses. So the job market also has to improve with the recovering housing market. So what does this ban mean for Opendoor and the housing industry? Opendoor will be affected by the ban only by a small percentage, and this is why. That's why you have to do your research and your due diligence when breaking news comes out, because a lot of people are spreading false information. First thing I did when I saw this news, I started reading, and doing due diligence because something didn't sound right based on what I'm hearing from all these stock websites saying, oh, Opendoor is over. I'm like, hold on. Opendoor is not an institutional home buy investment company. It's a iBuying company. Their whole goal is to find houses, fix them up, and make a quick transaction with the home buyer. That's it. Now, how will the ban hurt Opendoor? It will a little bit, but not for too long. This is why. In 2023, less than 3% of properties sold by Opendoor were purchased by institutional investors, a significant drop from over 25% in June 2022. So that means Opendoor, when they get houses and they can't sell them, they have an option to sell the houses to institutional investors. And they were doing that in June 2022. But in 2023, less than 3% of properties sold by Opendoor are to institutional investors. Only 3%. So that 3% will be wiped out based on the ban, because if institutional investors cannot buy houses anymore, Opendoor will not be able to sell houses that are on their books to them anymore. So that's 3% loss that they can't sell to. So instead, they're going to sell it to actual home buyers. But that's okay, because if the home buying atmosphere, the environment looks better, they won't need to sell it to institutional investors, because there's a lot of people buying houses again. So once Opendoor finds a house, buys it, fix it up, sell it to the home buyer, transaction done, and do it over and over and over again. Profits will start ringing in like they were before. Here's the definition of an institutional investor. Institutional investors are generally defined as legal entities that own more than 100 properties. The trend, the percentage of Opendoor home sales to the large investors decreased significantly in 2023 due to rising interest rates, which caused institutional buyers to pull back from the market. Comparison, in 2022, 14 different institutions purchased more than 100 homes from Opendoor. In 2023, only one institution did. So what I'm seeing here is Opendoor is not relying on institutional investors anymore. They're going straight for the home buyer. And Kaz says here, mortgage rates being artificially high is a structural barrier to home ownership. Very happy to see that this is being addressed. We need more families in homes that they own. Some of these institutional investors, they'll buy houses, hold on to them, then sell it at a higher price, or they'll buy them and rent them out and profit that way. Opendoor is not about that. They're about buying houses, fixing them up, and selling them quickly as possible. And if you haven't seen it, this is the news that came out yesterday that made a lot of people panic sell on a lot of housing stocks. Some of them not even related to what he was talking about, but they sold anyway because they didn't know what was going on. They were confused and they saw other people selling, so they sold with them. And they sold, and now today it goes back up again and they're out. So that's what happened with misinformation comes out and you don't know what it means. You got to do your research on what's really going on. And Trump says he is taking immediate steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I would discuss this topic, including further housing affordability proposals and more, at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. So we're going to get some huge news in 2 weeks. What's happening right now is possibly that people are buying the rumor, because we have 2 weeks before this news comes out. So a lot of people like to buy early before the news comes out. Will the stock go down a little bit and profit take when 2 weeks hits, when the news actually comes out? Maybe. It depends on the news. But a lot of people like to buy the rumor, and we're 2 weeks out from the actual news. So people are buying the rumor right now. And when the news comes out, you're going to have people buying the news, and the people who bought the rumor may start selling a little bit into the news. Here's some more information about Opendoor. While Opendoor does buy homes at scale, its primary strategy differs from that of a typical institutional real estate investor, like large single-family rental funds such as Pretium or Tricon. It's Tricon or Tricon, one of the two, which primarily purchase homes to hold as rental properties. So this is all the research I was doing when that news came out. I'm reading everything. I'm trying to make sure, like, hold on, Opendoor, this doesn't apply to Opendoor. Exit strategy. Opendoor aims for a quick resale, minimizing the time it holds the property due to high carrying costs. Institutional investors often focus on generating long-term rental income and appreciation. Buyer profile. Historically, a significant portion of homes Opendoor sold went to institutional investors. Historically, right? Keyword. In 2021, over 20% of sales were to institutions, but this has dropped to less than 3% in 2023. So look, Opendoor is not relying on these institutional investors anymore. So that's a good look. That was another reason not to sell Opendoor shares yesterday. All this news I'm showing you, I put all this news out yesterday in the afternoon, early afternoon, as soon as the news dropped on the Discord. So when I saw this news, I bought calls at the $6 and the $6.50 because I knew something's not right. It doesn't make sense. Why are they selling? It's panic selling. That's why I bought calls for Opendoor yesterday around the $6, $6.50 area. And now those calls are pumping in money right now. And what I said earlier, this indicates that its main buyers are typically individual home buyers. That's exactly what Trump wants, and Opendoor is going to deliver. And as I said earlier, if you're looking at other stocks that's going to benefit from this ban, hopefully it happens because it says it's going to Congress, right? RKT, Rocket Companies, and also Zillow. But RKT looks very, very nice for, a uptrend back to where it used to be. RKT was at $105. Now it's at $21. So if things go well, houses start being sold, RKT could fill this gap right here and go back up much, much higher. I'm not saying to go to 105 again. Who knows? But $21 is probably too low of a price. This is a chart I found yesterday as well. And, this was good. This was a good buy also if you bought it early in the morning because it went up today. And this was also on Discord I posted. More information about Opendoor, which looks really good. Some people are saying, oh, Krishy is selling shares. But the thing is, this is not 100% true. Krishy was actually awarded shares not too long ago. Krishy and Lucas. But the vest only if Opendoor share price clears a multi-tier hurdle starting at $6.24. So the shares that Krishy and Lucas was awarded, it only vests if Opendoor is at $6.24 or higher. So this is good. They have a reason to perform well so they can get their vest. So that means they need Opendoor to do well. $6.24 and much, much higher. And the CEO needs Opendoor to do well too because we already seen his performance structure. He can make a lot of money if Opendoor does really, really well. And what this does is it ties leadership rewards more closely to shareholder outcomes. So if the shareholders do well, the leadership does well also. And this is from yesterday. Someone wrote we're not an institutional investor and we're still allowed to buy homes as a marketplace would be nice. This person wrote that because Kaz responded to Trump about the new ban, and Kaz was pretty excited about it, but he didn't give detail why he was excited. And this person wrote, are you an institutional investor or not? Right? And Kaz responded, we're not institutional investor. Our job is to help people buy homes. We do not hold homes. Once again, they buy them, fix it up, sell it. And if you want to know who are the large institutional investors, here's a list of them right here. These are large institutional investors that will probably and most likely be affected by the ban. All right, now back to the chart, and I'm going to show you how the chart looks and where I think Opendoor can go to next. All right, first I want to start with January 6th because this was the initial pump before the fake out news. So January 6th, Opendoor looked really good. It went from $625 to $699. It couldn't hold that $7 resistance because it was just too strong. And then I made a video about it and said, $7 resistance, it may come down a little bit. People may profit take, but it shouldn't have done this. This isn't profit take. This is panic selling right here. Confused retail. Don't know what to do. Oh, you're selling, I'm selling. This is sheep following other sheep, not knowing where to go. Oh, you sell? All right, I'll sell. Oh, you selling too? All right, I'll sell too. They don't know what they're doing. They're just selling because they don't know why. They don't know why. You got to find out, why are things happening? Why am I selling? Why am I buying? Those are things you need to ask before you make any kind of decision in the stock market. So we went up on January 6th, and then after hours and pre-market, we were up a lot, right? I said the MACD and RSI is kind of overbought on a 1 hour and a 4 hour, and it was. See this right here? This means overbought. This means overbought. 1 hour, same thing. Right here, overbought. But when that panic selling happened on January 7th, it resetted the technicals and the indicators. The RSI went all the way down here, which is oversold. The MACD went all the way down here, which means it was also oversold. A lot of volume right here came at the $6.20. And we have huge volume bars. Why? Because there's a lot of buying and selling. It's a mix of buying and selling. So the volume bars are higher than normal. This is not all selling right here. Not all selling at all. This is buying and selling. And that's where, a lot of institutions and smart money were buying shares right here between $6.15, $6.40, $6.02. Went there temporarily. That's where they're buying. After hours, it stayed steady. Pre-market, it stayed steady. A lot of consolidation right here. And as soon as the market went up, it just blasted. You know why? Because institutions, they already bought right here. They bought right here in this area before the market closed. So they bought between $6.02 and $6.40, right? So when the market opens, they can already push that price much higher than where they bought it at. They bought at $6.02 and $6.40. So they pushed the stock much higher as soon as the market was open. Why? Because they're already in. They don't need to buy in up here around $6.50, $6.70, or $6.80. They got in right down here at $6.02, $6.15. And they also were loading back here when I said, somebody's buying. This is not normal. They were getting at the $5.76, the $6.15, the $6.05. And then they did the last load up right here between the $6.02 and $6.40 before they pumped this thing up higher. It's all orchestrated. You got to remember, the stock market is a game. It's about manipulation. Who is the smartest investor and who is the most patient investor? That defines the stock market pretty much. So anything lower than $6.40 is going to be smart money loaded in and retail who's been holding on, right? And the retail money is pretty much right around the $6.80 to $7 area, because retail, they're always late getting in because they don't trust the system, right? You buy low and you hold on to it. That's what it's all about, buying low and holding on. A lot of retail don't trust the system and they buy late and they buy, at the top. Every single day, retail is always buying the top. So if Opendoor profit takes tomorrow, where can we expect Opendoor to go down to? Let's answer that question right now. So for the support for Opendoor right now, we're looking at 696, 675, 673 area. That's the support we're looking at right now. And that's about it. It's one at 650, but I don't think it's going to go down that far. But 650, 673, 696. Those are going to be the support lines for Opendoor. Now let's check the resistance, because we got to know where will Opendoor struggle at when it goes higher, right? We got to know where the support is at, where the resistance is at. First resistance is going to be at the 740. And the next one is going to be right here at the 787 area. That's going to be resistance for Opendoor. And then, there's going to be maybe some resistance at the $8 area. And then the last one, which will be around the $8.60. So that's what we're looking at for Opendoor as far as support and resistance. And right now we're in between $6.96 and $7.41. What's going to happen tomorrow? No one knows. But if the market looks good tomorrow, hopefully we break that $7.41 and we hold. But we could also pull back to the $6.96 a little bit because we are up 12% after hours. Is Opendoor going to give back some of that 12% tomorrow? We have to see. But if it does, $6.96, $6.73 is going to be your support areas. $7.41 and $7.87 is going to be where the resistance is at. So that's all I have for Opendoor. If you're interested in joining Discord, it's going to be in the profile. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Take care.